If you want to know what's going on with DeFi and with Bitcoin, well, this video is for you. Let's get started. All right, let's start out with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's 11,900, doing pretty well. Hasn't really broken out just yet, but it's looking like it wants to. And today is a phenomenon day. It's Tuesday, and for the last 3 Tuesdays, Bitcoin dipped. So I was kind of expecting that we may see the same thing today. At least yesterday I was expecting it. So far, hasn't happened. It's still early, but overall, Bitcoin is at a good spot. We know that. It's consolidating, and it's gearing up for the next leg up. Well, looking at CMC, the overall BTC dominance has dropped significantly over this past week. We went from 60% BTC dominance down to 58%, and today we're down to 56.8%. And mostly that's caused by DeFi products, or DeFi projects, I should say, that have skyrocketed recently. Now, there are a few altcoins that are doing well today. For example, Ethereum is up 8%, which is pretty significant. It is nearing $470. Also, a project like Tron is going up in a big way, 14%. EOS slightly, but Cardano almost 6%. So there are a few projects that's not involved with DeFi that is going up. What are the DeFi projects I want to talk about? There's a few. And I know if you guys have been following DeFi, you may have heard of these, but there's one you probably haven't heard of before that I'm going to talk about. First, let's bring up DeFi Pulse. This is kind of like the new CMC for DeFi project. If you're going to be looking at DeFi projects, you're going to be investing in DeFi tokens, this is definitely necessary. And as you can see, the total locked-in value continues to go up and up and up, and it is now accelerating. So my stance on DeFi is I like DeFi, but asterisk. I like DeFi because it takes power away from the banks. That's why Bitcoin was created, because of distrust in banks, central banks, governments, and DeFi is kind of fulfilling that role now, right? People can lock in their money, or in this case, tokens or coins, and get interest. So there's no need to put it in a bank account, right? And you can also take out loans without banks. That is why I think DeFi overall is great for the whole ecosystem, for the crypto ecosystem. But right now, how it's being used is very dangerous. It's like a big bubble that keeps getting bigger. Now, before this bubble pops, I think things are going to go a lot higher, a lot higher. And I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But right now, total locked-in value, $9.1 billion. Last week, I introduced something that I am going to officially name the LM ratio, okay? And I brought this concept up last week. So easiest way to think about this is if you look at stocks, everything is measured against PE ratio, price to earnings. They compare the price versus the earnings, and then there's a multiplier. Usually it's 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x. In Tesla's case, it's like a million X because they don't make any money at this point. With DeFi projects, there's a definitive measurement or metric we could use, and that is locked-in value. So I am introducing, going forward, I'm going to call it the LM ratio, the locked-in value versus the market cap of that project. That is why I'm calling it the LM ratio. And if you look at the LM ratio, there's a lot that has changed over the past week. Aave is still number one, but you could see Uniswap jumped up tremendously recently. And same thing with Balancer, and these are DEXs. That is why Ethereum is going up so much, because Uniswap, for example, relies only on Ethereum. Everything is based on Ethereum. It's a DEX that's concentrating on ERC20 tokens. And for the last few days, guess who was pumping up? Well, I know you guys heard of Yearn Finance that has been pumping up. Today is coming down, but look at one of the main exchanges outside of Binance is Uniswap. There's another one that I haven't even heard of before, UMA, that has been pumped up a lot to 1.3 billion. Again, look at it. It's on Uniswap. This is the reason why Uniswap, the total locked-in value on Uniswap is climbing, because people are basically exchanging their ETH for these very popular DeFi projects. And when they're done, they make money. Guess what? They exchange it back to ETH, and I think this is why it contributes and helps Ethereum. I want to first concentrate on Yearn Finance, which has been the hottest DeFi project that everyone's talking about, keeps going up and up and up, mostly because of the price. It is at 33,500, so roughly 3 Bitcoins, not a little bit under 3, to buy 1 YFI coin. So I think that's the main reason why there's so much hype around it. Arthur Hayes also, I guess he's trying to pump it too. But it kind of deflated recently. So for the past day or so, it kind of hit a peak and is now coming down. You could see that, right? And because of that, Yearn Finance, if you look at the total locked-in value, has been going down. You can see it's negative and it's now at 777 million. It was a lot higher. It was above $1 billion before. So you might be wondering, well, what is Yearn Finance? Yearn Finance is a yield farming project. Basically allows a user to stake, and Yearn Finance will automatically move your stake token to several different lending companies that give interest, and basically choose the one that provides the most interest. For example, like Compound or Aave. If whatever you're putting down gives 1% on Aave, but 1.25% on Compound, it'll automatically switch. So that's yield farming. It maximizes the interest that you collect by staking some kind of collateral. That's what Yearn is doing. Does it deserve its high price tag? I don't think so, but this is crypto world, so there's a lot of pumps, and DeFi is definitely being pumped right now. However, with that said, going back to what I said about LM ratio, the fact that Yearn Finance has now dropped in terms of locked-in value significantly, and if you compare that to the overall market cap of Yearn Finance, which is over $1 billion, the LM ratio is below 1. Okay? Now, below 1 doesn't really mean anything until you compare it to other projects and their LM ratio. So if you look at everyone else on this list, like Aave, Maker, Curve, Synthetic, Compound Balancer, you look at their LM ratio, it's all above 1. Because even though they have this much locked-in value, their market cap hasn't reached it. But with Yearn right now, the LM ratio is below 1, which means out of all the projects that you see here, at least within the top 10, it is overpriced right now. It is overbought right now, which means that it can be coming down in a big way shortly. So for me, I would not be touching Yearn Finance with the 10-foot pole anytime soon until it comes down, or at all. I actually don't have any interest in Yearn Finance, but I'm just making an example. Something else with Yearn Finance is Binance. They're also going to be introducing futures with up to 50x leverage. Yeah, that's going to happen. So it's anticipated a lot of people are looking to short Yearn at this point. So they might utilize that 50x leverage, and you can see it go down in a big way. However, when you have so many short sellers, there could be a short squeeze, and it drives the, YFI up even more. But still, I would be very, 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 very cautious. If you made some money, I would take some profits. If you're thinking about getting in, I would not go in at this point. Keep in mind, this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion in terms of what I would do. You have to make your own decision. All right, so that's Yearn Finance. The LM ratio does not look good, and the fact that there is a Binance futures listing, I think there could be trouble ahead. Besides Yearn Finance, there's a couple other projects I want to talk about, primarily DEXs, and they work a little bit differently. However, they are extremely hot right now. I want to look at first at Uniswap, which has grown tremendously. At the beginning of the video, I talked about it. It's grown tremendously, and it has 1.4 billion locked in. So what is Uniswap? Uniswap is a DEX that's concentrated on Ethereum ERC20 tokens. So you can use it like a traditional DEX. So if you want to swap one token for another, you can, right? And it's very simple, very easy to do. And I'll be the first to admit, at first I didn't like DEXs. I didn't think there was enough users. I didn't think enough liquidity, but it has changed. Uniswap is definitely hot. Not nearly as big as Binance yet, but it is starting to get popular. What's also interesting about Uniswap is you can make money, you can collect interest by basically participating in pools. So you could put in, like, say, Ethereum or whatever other ERC20 token in here, and you get a small fraction of the fees. So if you're providing 1/10 of the total Ethereum on there, which would be a lot, but let's say you would be collecting basically 10% of the pool fees. The thing with Uniswap is there's no general governance token, okay? That is why, unfortunately, even though Uniswap is being pumped up to the moon right now in terms of locked-in value, and the LM ratio doesn't exist because there's really no token for Uniswap. Now, with that said, guess what? Now Uniswap has a major competitor. It's called Sushiswap. Yes, Sushiswap. The creators are anonymous. We don't know who they are. It could be from the creators of Uniswap. You don't know. It could be them because they missed out on having a token that's really going to pump, right? So we don't know. But Sushiswap is a fork of Uniswap and basically works exactly the same way. You could be a liquidity provider. It's also a DEX for ERC20 tokens. But there's one big difference. There is now a governance token and a bigger reward mechanism out there. Even according to Sushiswap, they're saying, well, if you're a liquidity pool provider for Uniswap, let's say, as soon as you take your money out, that's it, right? You're not collecting any fees. But with Sushiswap, it's a little bit different. You get sushi tokens, and you actually earn by holding on sushi tokens overall. So there's kind of like a double rewarding mechanism with sushi. But ultimately, yes, there is a governance token. So it's different from Uniswap. And everything about the website, how it works, is more geared for kind of like gamification, right? Gaming. It looks more like a game, right? So I don't know whether or not that's going to help. But what is helping is the fact that according to Sushiswap, they're not on DeFi Pulse yet. According to them, they have 800 million, locked in value already, only after a few days. That is pretty serious. In fact, I just talked about Sushiswap last night with my video newsletter for my Patreon and Insider members, and they were a lot lower. But I said, you know what, they look interesting based on their own value. And I didn't know, this morning, all of a sudden, Binance lists sushi, and they got a big pump because of it. And if you look at it, they pumped up 124% today. They're actually a little bit down from this morning. However, this is a big jump from last night. They really have 800 million locked in, and you look at the LM ratio, it's also above 1. It's way above 1 because the market cap is way lower than the locked in value, right? So it's actually like a 4-to-1 LM ratio. So it's actually still pretty amazing. If sushi can continue and build momentum and traction, and it continues to get more locked in value, it could definitely go higher. Doesn't mean that you should jump in and FOMO in right now, because there's a good chance it's going to come down. It pumped up this much this fast, right? But going forward, as the DeFi bubble continues to grow, it could definitely go a lot higher. And if you go by the LM ratio, it's actually undervalued right now. It's underbought. So that also looks pretty good. Now, the other project I want to talk about is Curve Finance, which is also a DEX. Now, Curve Finance kind of competes with Uniswap and Sushi, but kind of doesn't. They don't concentrate on ERC or Ethereum. They concentrate on just stablecoins. And their website looks like it's from the 80s or 90s, right? They did that on purpose. But you could see, you could swap DAI, USDC, USDT, TUSD, BUSD, basically all the popular stablecoins, and that's the only thing they concentrate on. So yes, they're a DEX, but they compete in their own realm. A lot of yield farmers utilize Curve, a lot of projects utilize Curve just for swapping stablecoins and trying to earn maximum interest with them. A lot of these lending companies, they give out a very high interest rate for stablecoins. And you know what? Utilizing something like Curve is really beneficial. Now, what I like is if you look at Curve's, again, LM ratio, it is very, very, very high. And when I say high, it's in a good way. Because you look at Curve Finance, it's $1 billion locked in, right? And if you look at the price, yes, it went up, but still 123 million out of 1 billion, right? So you're looking at a LM ratio of like 8 or 9, which is really good. Was really, really good. Now, Curve did start out with some controversy. Supposedly the token wasn't ready to be released, and some anonymous developer released it, and then the team just went with it. So there's some controversy behind it, but it's over. This is adopted, and they are also on Binance. I think that's important too, because usually these DeFi projects pump if they're on Binance. If they're not, they still could, but most of them pump because they're on Binance. So Curve is actually really undervalued if you look at their LM ratio, more so than even Sushi. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned how DeFi bubble, it is a bubble, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just want to give you guys a reminder, going back days before the ICO and altcoin season bubble, and even Bitcoin at that time, days before everything started going down, I just want to remind you guys that Ethereum at that point was 132 billion, XRP 72 billion, Cardano 20 billion, Litecoin 13 billion, Neo 11 billion, IOTA 10 billion, EOS 8 billion. You guys get my point, right? These projects were way, 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 way higher, and a lot of them had nothing. Like Cardano had nothing going for it. Only recently it started building upon the network and adding things like staking and so forth. But back then, Cardano's were worth 21 billion basically with nothing, right? So this is the reason why I think DeFi can grow a lot more going forward. We know we're entering year 4, the parabolic phase for Bitcoin and the overall market. So I think a lot of altcoins are going to start going up in a big way, and I think DeFi is not going to go away. So this DeFi bubble is going to continue. And a lot of these projects that have already pumped up 10x, I think they have a lot more room to grow. With that said, make sure you be smart about the whole thing, right? Don't FOMO in, don't be greedy. If you go buy in increments, don't go all in, right? Be careful. Oh, by the way, a few other things. I do have podcasts going right now on Spotify and Anchor. So some of you guys used to love hearing me instead of seeing me. You still can do so. I put the links in the description of this video. Also, I mentioned about talking about Sushiswap and also Curve in my video newsletter for Patrons and for insider members. If you're interested in getting more exclusive information, or early information, I should say, then look into them too. They're in the description of this video. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. What do you think about DeFi? What do you think about Yearn, about Uniswap, about Sushiswap, and Curve? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for future videos. Bye-bye.